Yeah. So how do you pick? I mean, this gym's huge, right? You have so much talent, so much knowledge there. Chris Camozzi, Brian Camozzi, the people you've named, Austin, Sid Vicious, Brandon, Yusuf. So Ian Heinisch, the list goes on. So how do you decide who's in your corner for a fight like this?
Man, it's hard. You know, it's interesting you brought up all those names because I look up to all those guys. You know what I mean, for instance, Ian Heinisch, he's from Ponderosa High School. I'm from Mullen High School, so we wrestled against them in high school, and
Cool.
and I kind of always. It's kind of weird saying this, but I kind of always looked up to Ian a little bit when we were in high school. You know, he was one of the top wrestlers in the state, and I kind
Yeah.
of was a up and comer at that time, so kind of making a little name for myself in wrestling. And so, it's hard to decide who you want to be your coach or your main guy. I
Right.
think I I just jive well with Sid because we're both wrestlers. We're both kind of smaller guys, so I've been doing a lot of work with him, and I think it's just kind of natural to have somebody you're doing all that work with be in your corner. You know what I
Agreed. They
mean?
know your
So
style. They know what makes you go. Yeah, how you're
exactly,
reacting.
and
Definitely.
also what I've been working on and
Yeah,
what I'm good at, what I'm not so great at. All those
absolutely.
things.
This is the prize fighting business. I'm your host, Muay Dan, and today my interview guest is MMA podcast host and amateur MMA fighter, Ben Armendariz. Ben is currently preparing for his second amateur MMA fight coming up at the end of the month on the Fury FC 37 card, taking place on September 28th. He has an extensive background in wrestling, having competed for over 11 years in middle school, high school, and college. Ben recently earned his blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and made the move back home to Colorado from Texas to train and work with Factory X Muay Thai and pursue a mixed martial arts career full-time. He sat down with me to have a conversation about this move, how he's approached his martial arts career up to this point, and what's next from here. Now let's dive back into my conversation with Ben Armendariz. Ben, thank you very much for joining me.
Of course, my man. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, a pleasure. So you have your next fight coming up, your second amateur fight on September 28th at Fury FC 37. That's about 2-3 weeks out from right now, probably about a week or two out from when we air this. So how are you feeling 3 weeks out?
Man, I feel great. I'm just super excited, so ready to go.
Cool. And so you're in the middle of training camp, and this is your first training camp with Factory X Muay Thai down in Inglewood, Colorado.
Correct.
And how's that going?
I love it. I came out here for the structure. I wanted to be part of Factory X. I know all about them. I've interviewed countless fighters from their team, so I kind of had an idea for what I was getting myself into, and I love it.
Cool. And that's because you have your own podcast.
Yeah, that's correct.
And what
Canvas
is that called?
Conversations.
Canvas Conversations?
Yep.
Cool. So Canvas Conversations, and people can check it out on YouTube, or where can they see that?
Yeah, YouTube. I have an Instagram at CCMMA News, and we're definitely all over YouTube, so check it out.
Nice. And so you mentioned you actually came to Factory X because you liked the structure, the training. You had experience interviewing these fighters in the past, kind of heard the approach that the camp takes. But prior to that, you were living in Texas, is that right?
Yeah. I was training at War Training Center with Jeremy Mahon, and just kind of learning the ropes of MMA and getting started, you know what I mean? MMA is a big thing to get into, you know what I mean? It's not for everybody, so I didn't want to make a big move and make my girlfriend and my two dogs move if it wasn't going to be something that I thought would work out in the long run. So I had to get a little taste for it first.
So this is a commitment. You move into Colorado, training with Factory X. It's a commitment to your career, essentially. It sounds like you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I want my life to be martial arts. So, I mean, it kind of already is at this point. So I'm kind of living the dream.
Absolutely.
I'm just at the beginning stages, though. So
Yeah, cool. So your training camp for this upcoming fight, do you know anything about your opponent?
I don't. I think he's a wrestler. I heard from one of my buddies. That's all I know, though. So.
And do you have a strong wrestling foundation, which we'll dive more into? So perhaps not a worry there for you. But if you could paint the picture, kind of what is training camp looking like right now, 3 weeks out? I mean, I imagine you're kind of hitting the peak of training camp, pushing yourself hard, and looking to be ready in another week or so, right?
Yeah, so at Factory X, it's really great because it's almost like you're always in a training camp. Monday, Tuesday, we have two practices on Monday, 3 practices on Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a rest on Wednesday. I only hit mitts with Sid Vicious on Wednesdays, and then back at it on Thursday with 2 days or 2 practices on that day, and then hard sparring on Friday.
So you are taking it like a pro, and year round, it sounds like you're saying too, which, it always blows my mind when you hear people like John Jones don't train year round, or I guess he does now, but in the past he hadn't, just come in and be a freak. But so Monday you're working out twice a day, Tuesday you're working out 3 times a day, and then Wednesday, do you get it off, or is it just pads like you said?
Yeah, I have the day off. I go to work. I work at Pure Spectrum CBD, so it's a little bit of a just nice day off almost, and then I go in there and kind of get a little shakeout and just break a little sweat. So yeah.
Nice. And then Thursday, Friday?
Thursday is 2 days, so I go Landau, one of those 3 practices on Tuesday, and then again on Thursdays Landau early in the morning at 6 a.m. and then I'll head off to work, go to Pure Spectrum for the 8 hours, and then get back for jiu-jitsu with Busy.
Nice, that's commitment.
Yeah.
So your job at Pure Spectrum, does it work around your schedule, or is that a normal 9 to 5?
Man, my job at Pure Spectrum, I'm so lucky to be there. First of all, we're an awesome company. We just made the Forbes list for one of the top CBD companies, and luckily my boss, Brady Bell, has been awesome to me and has allowed me this schedule. So Monday, Tuesday, I'm working from home, basically in the in-between time when I'm not at those practices.
Okay.
I'm online answering emails and making calls and doing everything necessary that I got to do. But then, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm in there pretty much 8 hours, the full 8 hours. So
yeah, so 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's honestly what it takes. Like, you were speaking to the idea that it's not a half-assed commitment to get into MMA. You certainly have to fully dive in, and it sounds like you're doing that. You're doing what's necessary to make it your life. So that's good. Your job, do they give you benefits like healthcare? Is that something?
Yeah, luckily I'm on salary there, so I get kind of all those awesome little pieces that come with that, which is healthcare benefits, stuff like that. So it's great.
Huge in MMA too, especially a lot of fighters say they don't have it.
I know that some of the fighters on our team are doing a lot of odd jobs and stuff like that just to make things happen. You know what I mean?
Be able to support their pursuit.
Exactly. So I'm super lucky, and my girlfriend lends a lot of support. So with the financial aspects, we get to split things. So I'm just super lucky, man.
Yeah. Cool. So what is it looking like for you? Like, where are you right now in camp? So again, about 3 weeks out, what's today, September 10th or so?
Mm-hmm.
And your fight September 28th. So 18 days out, what is it looking like intensity-wise?
I always try and keep the intensity level high.
Yeah.
Coach Mark Montoya kind of instills that in us, that we need to keep that intensity level high at all times. So if you get a short notice call or something like that, you're just ready all the time. And, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? So I try and stay in that mindset and keep the intensity high. Honestly, I try and dial back a little bit of my mental stuff and not think about so much, and just focus on my training and not think about the upcoming fight so much. I just think about the training, and
I know that drive you crazy.
Yeah, I know that if I'm putting in that work, that I'm going to be confident going into the fight. You know?
Confidence from preparation, confidence from your preparation derived from it. Very
Absolutely.
Cool. And then Fridays, you guys have your sparring night, I've heard?
Yep.
Cool.
Hard sparring on Fridays, get a little cage round in. It's nice.
Nice. And so is that 1 round are you guys doing? Are you doing 3 rounds in there? What does that look like?
So we'll do an open mat of everybody sparring, picking new partners, doing 5-minute rounds, and then...
5-minute rounds?
Yeah.
Nice, so pro rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Training to be a pro, training for where I want to be, right?
Beautiful.
Yes, and then he'll have us do 1 cage round, and so he'll make matchups right out the board, and then we'll go in there and bang it out, man.
Nice. So again, this is your first camp with Factory X. Before you were at Ward Training Center in Texas. How do you feel like the camps are different between the 2 gyms?
The structure of Factory X is why I came. I let Mark Montoya know right away that, there's nothing. He asked me, why did you leave your gym? I loved my gym. I love my teammates there. I love my coaches there. Shout out to Jeremy Mahon and the Ward Training Center and all my guys there. I just wanted a little bit more structure, and I knew that, talking to guys with Yusuf Zalil and, Brandon, all these guys, that there was so much structure there at Factory X. And obviously that structure has produced awesome results, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to be part of that, and it's awesome that happened to be in my hometown, Colorado, Inglewood area. So I'm just super lucky to be here now.
Yeah. And have they been pretty receptive as far as the team?
Yes,
welcoming?
super receptive. I think it helped me that I had known some of the guys from interviewing them and talking to them and
Yeah.
whatnot. So that was kind of a leg up and not feeling awkward or just weird and kind of an outcast, essentially.
Right.
But yeah, I feel super welcomed. Coach Montoya, Busy, all the other coaches and my teammates have all been super great to me, super welcoming. And yeah, I feel like I'm already part of the family.
Cool. And your hard work's clearly already been recognized and paid off because last night you just got promoted to your blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so congratulations.
Ah, thank you, brother. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I feel like I've done a lot of jiu-jitsu for a long time, a lot of no-gi.
Mhm.
So it was awesome to kind of get that recognition, especially from Coach Busy, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm super happy about that.
Very cool. And your fellow teammate and also on the card, Austin Jones, also got promoted last night. So, I mean, what is that like fighting on the same card as a teammate? Is that normal for you? Is this your first time doing it? How do you feel about that?
So my last fight was with Cage Combat, which is the same promotion as Fury Fighting, and I had 4 guys that were on that card with me there. So a total of 5 of us on that one, and then I think we have 6 on this Fury card. So
Nice.
it kind of feels good. I like training or having that training camp with my teammates, and especially Austin, because I do the 6 a.m. workout with him at Landau on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so we kind of share that grind not only at practice but at Landau too. So it's nice to kind of look at him and see how hard he's going, and it pushes me and motivates me to push even harder. So
Absolutely. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you are on the front end of your at least mixed martial arts career and fighting career. Is there anything that you work on in particular during a fight camp preparing for your opponent, or is it more just broadening your skills and making sure you're sharp everywhere?
You know, right now it's just kind of broadening the skills, just getting better, becoming more well-rounded altogether.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm pretty decent in striking, but I feel like I need to, I'll always just get better at that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I focus on a lot of that. That's why I do a lot of mitt work with Sid and trying to just develop that. I wouldn't say actually that I'm good. I just feel like I have a good handle on being able to pick up and learn things is what I mean.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's good. And Factory X has a heavy footwork, quick hand style, and very MMA oriented. I mean, everything kind of flows together with them. You see it with Ian Heinisch, Austin does a good job of it. Youssef, Brandon, they flow from the feet to the ground very well. And it seems to be because the orientation of the gym is more towards MMA than any individual martial art. I mean, is that something you guys work on in practice, going from striking to the ground, working on positions on the cage and such?
Constantly.
Yeah.
So we're always working on position over everything, but also just blending really well and being a really well blended fighter. So
Mhm.
constantly changing levels, constantly, showing different looks, fakes, and just not being one dimensional and, oh, my striking's not working. Okay, now I got to go to wrestling. Or my wrestling's not working. Now I just got to stand and bang. And,
Mhm.
just being blending everything and being well-rounded. Yeah, we work on it all the time. He's constantly yelling out to us, blend. So
Cool.
it's kind of getting instilled in the back of my head now.
Yeah. So how do you pick? I mean, this gym's huge, right? You have so much talent, so much knowledge there. Chris Camozzi, Brian Camozzi, the people you've named, Austin, Sid Vicious, Brandon, Youssef, so Ian Heinisch, the list goes on. So how do you decide who's in your corner for a fight like this?
Man, it's hard. It's interesting you brought up all those names because I look up to all those guys. You know what I mean? For instance, Ian Heinisch, he's from Ponderosa High School. I'm from Mullen High School, so we wrestled against them in high school, and
Cool.
and I kind of always. It's kind of weird saying this, but I kind of always looked up to Ian a little bit when we were in high school. He was one of the top wrestlers in the state, and I kind of was a up and comer at that time, so kind of making a little name for myself in wrestling. And so, it's hard to decide who you want to be your coach or your main guy. I
Right.
think I just jive well with Sid because we're both wrestlers. We're both kind of smaller guys, so I've been doing a lot of work with him, and I think it's just kind of natural to have somebody you're doing all that work with be in your corner. You know what I
Agreed.
mean?
They know
So-
your style. They know what makes you go. Yeah, how
Exactly.
you're reacting.
And
Definitely.
also what I've been working on and
Yeah.
what I'm good at, what I'm not so great at, all those
Absolutely.
things.
Cool. So what weight do you fight at?
My first fight was at 135 Bantamweight, and this fight will be at 125 flyweight.
Okay. Where do you like to fight? Where do you want to fight into the future?
You know, with the way that the UFC is, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to make it to the UFC, right? And with the 125 flyweight division in flux right now, I'm kind of open, you know what I mean? So I'm comfortable making 125, and as I build the strength with that Landau at Landau, you know, maybe I'll get up to 135 in the future, but 125 is comfortable right now for me.
Yeah, and Landau seems to be pretty good at, you know, helping you maintain your weight if that's a goal of yours, you know, keeping you at a certain weight class or whatnot while getting stronger and faster, theoretically.
Absolutely. I mean, they break everything down so scientifically. I mean, they ask you what weight you're shooting for, you know, what you're walking around at. They weigh us every Tuesday. It's super methodical.
I guess that's how you get to work with the Broncos.
Yeah, exactly. I love it, yeah.
Cool. So coming into this fight, you're fighting at 125 for this one. So what are you weighing right now, 3 weeks out or so?
I walk around about 135 right now, so about 10 pounds over.
So not too bad.
No.
I mean, I guess, you know, being in a lower weight class, it's a higher percentage of your weight, but
right.
10 pounds overall, not terrible.
No. I normally, when I'm not like in fight camp or whatever, I probably walk around like 145, closer to maybe 150 sometimes, you know, if I had a donut that morning or something. But I just focus on my diet and being super disciplined on everything that I'm eating. My girlfriend's really super awesome for me. She's been super helpful with all my meal prepping and stuff like that. So
cool.
I just stick to the plan, and the weights come off really easy.
So you are maybe not cutting weight, but eating healthy and rejecting the bad foods right now during camp?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So naturally about 10 pounds falls off just from kind of cleaning up the diet while you're perhaps picking up the intensity a little bit. So when do you cut the last 10 pounds? Will it fall off over time, or is it last day or two?
So I just teamed up with Laylee Letterman. Yeah.
Cool.
So
her husband was on the last episode.
Awesome.
Fiance.
Yeah. So I'm getting some help from her, and she's got a whole 10-day plan for me with meals and stuff like that. And I'm just gonna basically go through that process with her and kind of go the direction that she leads me. So
awesome. And that's Real Food Denver?
Yep, exactly.
I know they work with Corey Sandhagen and a handful of other people, and it looks good, so cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
And then as far as like the last cut, do you do that with water, or you just expect to be on weight through your work and the diet at that point?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to water a little bit
okay.
and hit the sauna, you know what I mean? But because like we said, you know, I'm pretty skinny as it is, so it's not like I have a lot to lose as far as fat or anything like that.
Right.
So a portion of that's going to have to be water for sure.
Cool. And you do have a wrestling background, which again we'll dive more into, but were you cutting weight for that? Is it something you're used to, or were you generally wrestling at what you walk around at?
It's funny that you bring that up. I was cutting a lot of weight in high school, but I was doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I wasn't educated at all. I was spitting in bottles and like
chewing
Starburst and gum and all these just being silly. Like I was just talking to my girlfriend about how one day I was it was a morning of a duel we had in Boulder against Boulder High School, and our coach had us come in for weigh-ins that morning, and I was 8 pounds over the day of our weigh-in, and
up in there.
He like wrote me a note so I didn't have to go to my third. We were leaving after third period, so he wrote me a note so I didn't have to go to first and second, and I went out on the track and ran and stuff, and it was just an awful day, an awful experience. I remember my buddy Phil just had to like basically hold me up to the scale, like got dizzy and stuff. Yeah, and I just wasn't educated. I was eating pizza during the day. I was being a high school kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I've seen it bad. I mean, I remember just thinking back, I was wrestling in high school. One of my buddies was like 4 pounds overweight, but we were like 3 hours away from the meet. So we were driving the bus there. They cranked up the heat, and you just had to run up and down the aisles with the sweat saw, the trash bags.
Exactly. Such is life for a wrestler, man.
That's right. But, I mean, I think that it translates so well to MMA because you get that grinding mindset. You get that, you know, I can work when I'm hungry. I can push through this terribleness because you've done it in the off season of wrestling. You've done it during the wrestling season. You have the taste of competition. You know, I do think it prepares you very, very well. So it's good background to have.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I mean, you train year round, right? You train full intensity year round. The idea is to stay ready, be ready for a fight that comes up, an opportunity. You want to be able to grab it. What differences are there outside of camp? Like, are there any differences? Obviously, the eating you mentioned goes up a little bit. You don't worry about it as much. But I mean, do you like think about I want to work on kicks here or anything like that, or is it still just overall?
I think it stays relatively the same other than the eating, and I get to eat whatever I want then, but also a little bit of mindset. Whenever I'm in camp, you just kind of dial in a little bit more. You're a little bit more focused.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like things are, every practice matters a little bit more. Not that they don't when you're not in camp, but
Yeah.
you have the tendencies when you're not in camp. If you had a rough day or you were up late that night before, working or something like that, you may not bring that same intensity. But when you have a fight coming up, you make different sacrifices to where you can get to bed early that night. And so you can wake up feeling fresh and rejuvenated. And so you can give it your 100%. And I think it's just that little extra mindset of knowing you got a fight coming up,
Yeah.
But,
do you do anything to keep that focus on it? Like, do you put a date on the wall or on your door at home or anything? Put a picture up of the guy and throw darts?
No, that's funny though. Not really. I mean, I just focus on my training whenever I'm in the moment, you know what I mean? And that gives me the confidence for that upcoming date, you know what I mean? And,
Absolutely.
my girlfriend is really great at, keeping me grounded and just making sure I'm always on point. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the support network's huge. It's part of your team, right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you have this fight coming up. This will be your second amateur fight. Your first fight you won by Von Flug choke, a submission win. How often do you want to fight? I mean, what does that look like for you moving forward?
I mean, the goal is to make it to the UFC. So I'm already 30 years old right now. So I want to keep them coming. I would like to stay as active as possible and just, you don't have this youth for forever. You know what I mean? So I would like to stay as active as possible and just get things rolling.
So as long as you stay healthy, keep fighting or keep taking the fights as opportunities come.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. So you mentioned diet, nutrition. Your girlfriend kind of helps you there. You've got Real Food Denver enlisted for this weight cut essentially. What does your diet look like outside of fight camp? Like I know you mentioned you don't really watch what you're eating, but what is a normal meal for you, and what does dessert look like?
So maybe sometimes dessert is first, but I don't know. We pretty clean generally too. It's not like we're picking out or anything like that, but we definitely like to have a snack in the house or something like that. So food is generally the same. We eat a lot of greens, a lot of salads. I like a lot of chicken and stuff. We have a lot of salmon and rice, stuff like that. And that stays relatively the same just because I like that stuff. But like I said, it's mostly I'm a snacker, man. I like to get my snack on. I'm a donut guy, cupcakes, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
What are you eating right after weigh-ins?
Whatever, like I said, Laylee has for me after weigh-ins.
Oh, so she's helping you with that too. So she's not only helping you with the weight cut, but also the rejuvenation or the rehydration and refueling aspect.
Exactly. She's got some shakes she's got for me already. She's told me about, and I'm super excited to try that out. So
awesome.
And just go through that process with her. Yeah.
Very cool. Then what about the day after the fight? What are you eating after the fight?
Bro, I'm gonna tear it up. I don't know. I can't even list all the things. I got some friends that my friend Arlie from work is talking about all these things that she's gonna make and stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. Cool. I don't know, man. Cinnamon toast sounds good. Pizza sounds good. I was telling Amber, my girlfriend is Amber. I was telling her when I was driving home last week, I saw a Pizza Hut. And I never drive by a Pizza Hut and I'm like, oh, I want Pizza Hut, right? But this day I was just driving by and I was like, man, on some Wednesday, whenever I'm done out of fight camp, I'm going to pull in there and just get a big, large pizza and eat it by myself. You know what I mean? So
everything looks tasty when you're being disciplined with the diet.
Exactly.
Cool.
Anything greasy, maybe a big cheeseburger or something. So, yeah.
So diet, normally you kind of got Real Food Denver here for the weight cut, for the rehydration. What do you do for recovery? I mean, 3 days of workouts on a Tuesday, 2 days every other day. What does recovery look like?
So, like I said, I work at Pure Spectrum, so I'm pretty lucky to have that in my back pocket. Yeah. I get a lot of stuff from them, so I'm using tincture every single day.
Cool.
I use our Afterwad, which is just our topical that we use. It's 1,000 milligrams. I'm putting that all over my body some days. And then, I take isolate and stuff, and then just a lot of good rest.
Yeah. Do you do any stretching outside of practice?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that basic stuff, too, as well as stretching. So luckily, we got a little jacuzzi in our house, so cool. I'll hit the jacuzzi and chill in there for a little bit. It's nice, yeah.
Very nice. What about anything else? Do you do any type of sauna stuff or like any other recovery methods? Or
I
you
try and stay away from the sauna. Occasionally I'll get a massage or something like
Mhm.
that, you know what I mean? Maybe hit an acupuncture just to get kind of lined up. Just if I feel I need it though, you know what I mean?
So more reactive with that type of stuff, and then focus more rest, recovery, diet, preventative wise.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool, cool. And then you mentioned you work with Landau Performance on your strength and performance. And you spoke to 2 days a week. Is that generally 2 days a week consistently?
Yeah, 2 days a week, every week, and then occasionally Augie will meet me on a Saturday. Amber likes to go get a little work in on Saturday mornings too sometimes, so he's been kind enough to oblige us whenever we feel like we need to hit a Saturday morning too.
Cool.
So yeah.
And what does it look like with them? I mean, I know you mentioned it's very scientifically backed, but is it cardio, plyometrics? Are you weightlifting?
So on Tuesdays we're doing a lot of lifting, a lot of weight training type stuff and explosion type stuff. You know what I mean? And then Thursdays is cardio day. So
Yeah.
we're hitting the treadmill. We're doing the Versa Climber, which is my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. And the Versa Climber, that's for using the hands and the legs, so just total body burn and
Exactly.
killing the cardio.
Exactly.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So, I mean, do you do anything outside of that, or do you feel like 2 days, 3 days on Tuesdays, Landau's twice a week, that's enough, if not plenty?
Occasionally I'll go for my run.
Okay.
On Sundays, I like to meet with my old high school coach, Asao Hashimoto, and we get up on Sunday mornings at 9 and we meet. And he's a lot older now, so it's kind of a tapered down workout from what he used to put me through when I was in high school. So it's kind of nice, and we just kind of shoot the shit and talk and enjoy each other's company and get a little lift in, get a little workout in. But I try to stay active every day. I don't want to. It's hard for me to just sit and just not do anything. I have to break a sweat at some point in the day.
So Sunday's kind of an active recovery day. You're getting work in, but not necessarily killing the body.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And then Monday right back to 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice. So yeah, full schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So you diet, nutrition. You take care of the diet, nutrition. You've got help from Real Food Denver. You go to Landau's Performance. Factory X essentially takes care of all the skills-based training. And you spoke to that total MMA orientation, but they do have striking class, grappling class, and then you have MMA class as well, or team practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting these individual martial arts works, but there's also this focus on blending everything together.
Completely, yep.
Nice. So what does the financial aspect of that look like? I know you mentioned your healthcare covered by your employer, which is huge. 'Cause out of pocket, that's absurd to pay.
Serious.
You have Landau Performance. I assume that costs you money. I know they have a deal through most of these gyms, but that's something you have to pay for. Factory X, Real Food Denver. I mean, the costs do add up, but what stands out to me is it seems like you don't take much on yourself. You kind of say, I'll leave it up to the professionals. I'll build this team around me and just listen to what they tell me. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I know from working with Ian Larios, who's with Lockhart and Leith, that nutrition is huge. So I knew that I needed to get some type of nutritionist, right? And luckily, Laylee's been kind enough to work a deal with me because I do Canvas Conversations, do a little promotion work for her.
Nice.
So I get a little bit of discount there, which is awesome.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
great.
Helps out my pocketbook with, like you said, all the other things I have to pay for. My gym dues and stuff like that, and plus Landau, it's around $400 a month because my girlfriend also trains there too.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm lucky to have her, and she's also helping with the finances too. So it's not like it's just all on me. You know what I mean? So
I mean, she's part of your team too, right?
Exactly.
I think I love when people build a solid team around them, because I think that is the way you're going to get to where you want to be. And the people that try to take it on themselves, you see them struggle. You see them maybe bouncing between gyms because it is difficult to do all that on your own. At the highest level, maybe John Jones can build a team around him, and that's what you're doing to a certain extent, but you still have to go to them, right?
Exactly.
At this level. So, I mean, Factory X, your girlfriend support network, skills-based with Factory X, you've got diet nutrition covered with Real Food, your strength and performance covered by Landau, and then recovery, you're essentially focused on rest and relaxation. I mean, I think you've got every angle covered there, right? It's more just moving forward and listening to what they say and
exactly
putting in the work.
Exactly. And that's what kind of makes it easy for me, is that whole support network. And then I just basically all I have to do is show up and put out the effort, you know what I mean? And for me, that's what I want to do. So that having all that other stuff and setting all that other stuff up has been kind of not hard, but it takes time. It takes some commitment and
relationship building.
Yeah, some strategy to it as well, and just time management skills. And I'm just super lucky to be in this position and
budgeting.
Yeah,
the financial aspects.
Yeah, exactly.
People gloss over it, but it's expensive to pursue a career in martial arts. Maybe one day you make a good amount of money, but that whole path to get there is an expensive one.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to kind of spend money to make the money. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And if it's not the money, it's your time. If it's teaching classes or like you said, promoting her service on your podcast, it still takes time and effort away from you. So it's an expense or a cost no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting. So take me back to the beginning of your career. So I know you have a grappling background. You've before the show you mentioned you've been striking only for really about a year and a half. And I watched your last fight. Your striking, I mean, it was a lot of grappling, but your striking looked good while you were on the feet. So when did you first start kind of training in martial arts, even if it was just something kind of rudimentary when you were little? Like, what was your first taste of it?
So my mom got me into Taekwondo when I was a very little kid. I don't even know how old I was. I want to say like 6 or 7, maybe even younger. And so I went through, I think, 5 or 6 belts there.
So that was back when they were coming to your school and recruiting you, right?
Yeah, stuff like that.
School.
Yeah, totally. But I loved it, and I can remember us putting on like a full body gear, head, all of it, right, and doing a little sparring. And I can even remember then like feeling like, man, I wish they could go harder almost. You know what I mean? I felt like I was a little step above. I don't know, a little more coordinated maybe.
Yeah.
And I did that for several years, and so I kind of learned, I guess, how to throw punches maybe a little bit, and the idea of throwing kicks and stuff like that. So it wasn't super foreign to me. I took a little break from martial arts for maybe 3 or 4 years before I started wrestling full time. But yeah, so my first was Taekwondo, and then wrestling, and then once I found wrestling, it was game over.
When did you start wrestling?
I was in 6th grade when I went to my first wrestling camp, 5th or 6th grade. Yeah.
That's young. I mean, I started 9th grade, and I felt like that was late. So, middle school, I mean, that's really where you're kind of going to get the edge up on people, and it clearly paid off because you wrestled in college. So you wrestled 3 years in middle school, go to high school at, I'm sorry, where did you say you went to high school?
I went to Mullen High School.
Mullen High School, and you wrestled there all 4 years? Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, you've already got 7 years experience in wrestling, and then you go to college, and you wrestled there for 4 years as well, right?
Yeah, I wrestled 2 years at Labette and 2 years at Bacon College. So, nice. And Labette's got Joe Renfro there, who is historically one of the best coaches in junior college. So I was really lucky to wrestle under him. Yeah.
What did your wrestling career look like?
It wasn't bad. In high school, I was a state placer, state champion in freestyle, state champion in Greco. So that was cool. I didn't live up to my full potential in college, mostly just because I was being a silly college student, messing around, doing stuff like that. But I got all the wrestling in. I was never missing practices. I was always at practice. So the wrestling accolades may not match up to what my actual wrestling level is. So.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, I think regardless, it's the time put in, right? I mean, even whether or not you succeed in college wrestling, I mean, there's so many other variables in there, but just picking up the skills and developing those skills, it's hard not to get better when you wrestled for 11 years. It's hard not to be better than most other grapplers, at least at wrestling, who haven't done it for 11 years if you put that time and grind in. Even people picking it up at this point, I mean, your body developed around wrestling. Essentially, you move like a wrestler when you're fighting, maybe a little smoother on the feet, but yeah, I mean, it's a good background to have. So you focused all on wrestling, middle school through college, and then what happens when you graduate?
Man, when I graduated, I was just, actually, to be honest, I didn't graduate. I just got out of school, and I was wanting to just make money. I was kind of tired of the school thing, being a broke college student, and I was partying a lot at towards the end, and I realized that's not, I was tired of it, basically, and so I moved out to Texas. My dad worked in the oil fields. He got me a job in the oil fields. So I was working hard out there doing that. And then
it pays well.
It does pay well. And I enjoyed that experience. And it's something that I don't regret going through that experience. But I can remember those 12-hour days on the rig and seeing those guys like just old and heavy set, and their bodies kind of wore down. And I just kind of took a look at that, and I can remember this one guy. It was like 3 a.m, and we were tripping pipe, which is like one of the hardest things you could do on the rig. And I was up there on the rig floor with him, and we were covered in oil and mud, and it was cold, and it was raining outside, and it was awful, to be honest. And he just looked over him, and he was like, "This is what you want to do with your life, man?" And I kind of laughed, and it wasn't a big deal at the moment, but then I kind of realized, like, no, this is not what I want to do with my life. So I kind of took a thought about what I really wanted to do, and I knew that I've always been in love with martial arts and MMA and wrestling, obviously, and I've always been a fan of the sport. So I kind of started gearing towards making a change and move out of that, you know. So at that time, I had met my girlfriend Amber in Texas, and so I was lucky enough that she was living in Houston and I was living in this small town there where it was kind of closer to the rigs and stuff like that. And I moved in with her, and I switched jobs. I got out of the oil fields and switched jobs into working as an indoor skydiving instructor for iFly. Yeah, but that freed up my time. You know, I had a more regular schedule. I eventually got a Monday through Friday schedule, and that allowed me to start getting back into the swing of things, you know.
So how long were you out on the fields, do you think, the oil fields?
Oh, off and on with different companies, probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And by the way, that's very interesting you say that, because another guest we had on here, Joe Naturo, had a similar story about how he's working on the oil fields, making really good money, but then, you know, he just had this kind of haunting thought of, like, you know, I'm wasting my time here, essentially. You know, like, I'm making good money, but where is this going?
Exactly.
Cool. So you decide to move in with your girlfriend. Do you start picking up martial arts training at that point? What gets you back into the gym? What even gets you thinking about going back to a gym?
You know, like I kind of mentioned that I didn't live up to my wrestling potential. It kind of hurt the soul a little bit, and I think that I was kind of broken down mentally, like, because of that. So when I moved in with her, it's interesting that we lived right across the street from Gracie Baja gym.
How fortuitous.
Yeah, so she was constantly like, "Yo, just go over there, come on, like, you need to do it." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And she had seen me hitting the bags and stuff, and like, some people, like, when they hit the bag, you're like, "Ooh," right? You know what I mean? And some people, when they hit the bag, you're like, "Oh, okay," you know what I mean? I think she saw that and was like, "Okay, maybe you should go to the gym," you know what I mean? And she had never seen me wrestle or grapple or anything like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so then one day we went over there together, and I invited her to come watch, and I was wrestling with actually a guy who was in the 125-pound division in the UFC. He's an LFA champ, and she watched me wrestling with him.
Texas, Brandon Marino?
No, I'm not gonna say any names, but it wasn't Brandon. But anyways, I'm not gonna say any names. But I was winning. I was doing very well, and he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy, and this was definitely just a wrestling thing. But she saw from that, like, okay, there's real potential here. So then she really started encouraging me more, and that kind of.
It shows you the strength of the base.
Yeah.
I mean, wrestling, just that idea of top control is, you know, when a real wrestler's on top of you, it's not much more demoralizing than trying to stand up repeatedly and someone keeps
bringing
you
you back down. Yeah. Exactly, 100%. So, I mean, that was kind of the building blocks for, I mean, where I'm at now. I mean, I didn't stay at Gracie Baja long. I just trained there for like a few months, and then we had moved to a different part of town in Houston. And actually, Jason David Frank, who was the Green Ranger and stuff, he was imploring me to get back into it and telling me to get back into it. And one of his buddies, who is an MMA fighter who he sponsored, introduced me to Tanya Evinger, who
she fought Cyborg.
Yeah, exactly. So she
Invicta champ.
Yeah, she came in to fly with me one night at iFly, and
no way.
Yeah, she saw my ears and was like, "Hey, where'd you get those cauliflower ears?" And I was like, "Oh, I wrestled." And she's a wrestler too, you know what I mean? Yeah. So she told me to come down to the gym at Ward Training Center, and I was like, "All right, I'll come check it out." And I asked her that day, I was like, "Is it an MMA gym? Because I would like to kind of start cross-training, you know, not just wrestling." And she's like, "Yeah, it's an MMA gym." So I went down there. I met with the wrestling coach, actually, and he invited me to start coaching right away. So I traded my services of coaching wrestling and for my gym membership essentially. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I like those trade-offs.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So you go into this gym, you start teaching the wrestling. Are you taking classes too, or are you kind of still dipping your toe in?
At the beginning, I think I was just kind of going through the wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and then I met Jeremy Mahon, and me and him clicked right away. He's an awesome guy altogether, and so I think he saw maybe a little bit of the potential from my wrestling that I could maybe get in there and not just be a pansy, you know, like some people. A lot of people think they want to do MMA or they can do MMA, and then they step on the mat and they're like, "Whoa, okay," you know what I mean? So he gave me an opportunity to go against some of the guys in the gym, and I held my own, and you know, he just helped me progress from there. So
cool. So at this point, you mentioned when Tanya came into the iFly, you thought, hey, you know, I wouldn't mind cross-training MMA. I mean, at this point, are you thinking about competing? Are you thinking about pushing the envelope on your limits or your skill ability? I mean, what's going through your head at this point, other than, well, I'll give it a try, or is it just that?
So I mean, I was running the Canvas Conversations podcast at that time, and it was that and iFly was kind of my outlets, I guess.
When did you start Canvas Conversations?
2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly.
So still when you're mainly grappling.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was just grappling at that point. You know what I mean? Just going to open classes and small stuff like that. And so I was super into the MMA scene, I guess you could say.
Right.
So I had some aspirations of just definitely trying it, but I was being realistic with myself at that point. It's like, you know, I was like 27 or so at that point, and it's like, man, I don't know if I'm ready to dive all the way into this, because I knew it was gonna. When I go in on something, I'm gonna I have committed now. I gotta fully commit, right? And especially a sport like, I knew with wrestling, you have to fully commit. And if you're not 100% in shape, if you're not weight training, if you're not doing your own stuff and cardio and watching everything that you put into your body, it's not going to work out for you. You know what I mean? You're not going to get.
Martial arts has a way of taking over your life.
Yeah, it's not. You're not going to get the results you want. You know, so I was kind of more afraid of committing fully, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, committing yourself fully, and then having that thought in the back of your mind that I might give it my all and still fail. I mean, it's a terrifying thought. I think that's what stops most people from trying most things.
100%. Yeah. So I just kind of, luckily, like I've mentioned her a few times, Amber helped encourage me and just get me through that first hump of should I, could I, you know, and so.
A strong girlfriend seems to be a recurring theme in my conversations with a lot of successful martial artists.
Yeah, well, I mean, behind every good man is a better woman, I feel like, right? So.
Cool. So at this point, you're teaching the grappling classes probably 2.5 years ago or so. Maybe no eyes quite on competing yet, but you're starting to maybe feel it. So when is the turning point? When is the turning point where you say, "Hey, I'm gonna chase this"?
I think it came from cage rounds at War. One of the guys that was I think he was the cage combat like champion or something like that, amateur champion, and I did a round with him and I won the round, and just using wrestling really only, and Jeremy kind of pulled me to the side and was like, "Man, you need to do this, bro. You just beat the guy who's the champ in Houston. You know, you should really try this." And I was like, "Well, okay. I'll give it a go." So then I really started picking up the striking and really started coming to all the, you know, anything having to do with striking, so I could just like try and match my skills from wrestling and try and blend stuff before I even knew really what blending was essentially. I just kind of caught the bug from him and his encouragement.
So how did you approach striking? Did you approach it like, I'm just going to learn whatever they're teaching me? Or were you thinking more like, how can I integrate striking around my wrestling? Like, what was your approach?
I watch a lot of video. I do a lot of studying online and just watching. I would watch a lot of TJ Dillashaw, his movement and his transitioning from being a wrestler to using his striking, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah.
So I like to watch and study a lot of that, and I try to blend that into what I was doing, combined with what I was learning at War.
Yeah.
And Jeremy has a good style too. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he kind of understands the idea of blending the grappling with the striking as well. So, and he knew that that's what I would want to do. So
Right.
he kind of tapered everything that he was teaching to me. And also
Cool.
my main training partner was also a wrestler. He's since become a really great striker as well. He's in Thailand right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the way to level up striking.
Exactly. So, he was kind of tapering everything to our skill set. So
Yeah,
we're
cool.
lucky.
Yeah, and I mean the idea of pursuing mixed martial arts is you don't really know where to put most of your time. You're kind of just trying to put these pieces together and develop this overall game that you can take anywhere, that you can dictate where the fight goes, or you can at least respond where the fight goes if you're not better than them in that area. So you're doing grappling, you're integrating striking into it. How long before you take your first fight?
It's probably about 7 or 8 months before it got scheduled.
Okay. So,
And
I mean, that's a good amount of time to put towards developing the striking, especially because you are primarily a grappler. Obviously, it's going to be what you revert to for the most part when it gets tough or when you start grinding. But, I mean, 7, 8 months of striking, you're getting at least a foundation under you and, like you said, learning how to blend it together.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I
So-
was lucky to be there.
Yeah. So when was the first fight?
Last year in August.
Okay, so about a year ago, a little
Yeah.
over a year ago, you won that fight by second round von Fluke choke. I mean, you're pretty much winning the fight everywhere. Winning on the feet, you took him down the first round, take him down in the second round, ended up finishing the fight with that. So, and you had him trapped between the cage, so best time for the von Fluke choke, right?
Yeah.
What made you, or when and what made you decide, cool, I won this fight, but I still need to pick it up a notch and go to Colorado and train with Factory X?
Well, there's so much, like I've talked about this already, but there's so much structure that I knew that was at Factory X. And not that there's not structure at War Training Center with
Yeah.
Jeremy and all that, but I just knew that I needed more bodies, more training partners, more consistent guys, more guys that were going to put their all in like me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I only had one other guy, like I said, Dakota, who was as all in as I was. And I wanted to get 4 or 5 different guys like
Yeah.
that. And I mean, at Factory X, I have, 3 guys at 125 pounds that are ranked in the top
Yeah.
10 in the nation, right?
Yeah,
Sid,
Brandon,
Brandon,
Sid, yeah.
and Nate, you know what
That's
I mean?
right, that's right.
Yeah,
Nate
Nate.
Smith.
Yeah,
Cool.
and Nate's a killer too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
He's what, 5-0, just won a belt or something like that, 4-0
yeah,
at least?
5-0, yeah,
5-0.
5-0, and I think he's ranked number 7. I think Brandon's number 1, and Sid is like number 2 or 3 or something.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
they have trouble finding fights at this point.
Exactly. So it's just I'm in a house of killers, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
That's great.
yeah.
Cool. So definitely a lot more looks. And I mean, that's at the bottom of the weight classes. It goes all the way up. There's so many people to train with there. So it is great. I mean, I do think Factory X is one of the best gyms in the nation, coaching wise, bodies wise, the amount of talent, the amount of skill, the amount of knowledge. And it's not just people on the front ends of their career. You have the whole spectrum there, right? You know, Chris Camozzi, I mean, making it full circle back to local Colorado MMA scene and doing very well, you know,
Mhm.
finishing his fight in the first or second round. So
Yeah,
It's
first
impressive.
round, yeah.
So, I mean, what do you envision? Obviously, don't want to look past the fight, but what do you envision, you know, over the next year or so? Like, what is it? I know you want to fight as much as you possibly can while you're healthy, but what do you envision as the path, or do you let other people take care of that?
I don't really have it mapped out, I guess, per se. I'm kind of open, you know. Like I said, I just want to keep fighting, stay active, stay training, getting better every single day. That's my goal as of right now.
Yeah.
And whatever can happen, I'm excited to have it happen. You know what I mean? So whatever opportunities present themselves, I'm gonna take them.
Cool.
And just stay focused, really.
So if you can think back, what do you think your goal was when you first started wrestling? You know, 6th grade. What is young Ben thinking?
I just wanted to win a match. In the beginning, I wasn't
Yeah,
very good. You know what I mean? I
Oh,
just
yeah.
wanted to win a match, and so
A wrestler, man. When you first start wrestling, you're like, wow, I am so bad compared to it's
Yes.
just a rough sport.
Yeah, exactly. So I think back then I just wanted to win a match, and I figured out how to win matches, and I hit a long streak. So I'm just trying to do the same in MMA. You know what I mean? Right? Like right now, I got this fight coming up. I just want to win my fight. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And once I get comfortable, then I'll hopefully string them together. You know?
Take
So,
it one day at a time and make sure you're putting in the work each day.
exactly.
I love it. So I know you are on the front end of your career, but you have had you know, a significant amount of time training. I consider wrestling a martial art. You know, I think it's part of certainly mixed martial arts. It's a major part of it. So, thinking back, your experience, what tip would you give a young aspiring either fighter or martial artist just walking in the doors and, like Gracie Baja beginning their career?
Right. I mean, I'm not too far away from that as well, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
I just think just have a plan and stay committed. Believe in that plan, believe in that commitment that it's going to pay off, because it does. And that feeling of that commitment paying off is unlike any other. I think, from wrestling, when you win that match, you're standing in front of another opponent, and there's always that thought in the back of your head, no matter how much you've trained, no matter how hard, there's that small little thought of like, what if this guy did something more?
I had that a lot in wrestling.
You know what I mean? What if this guy beats me or something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's the state champ. Okay.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And like Coach Montoya was saying the other day, you're out there in front of all your friends, family, all these people you don't know, and you're in your underwear. You could be exposed. You know what I mean? That's the most exposed you're gonna be. Exactly. That's the most exposed you're gonna be. So
absolutely.
There's a little bit of fear and apprehension there, but when you get your hand raised, I mean that I can't describe that.
Next
feeling.
level high.
Yeah, exactly.
High off life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, awesome, man. I appreciate your time. I'm excited about your journey. I think it's cool. You have a cool background with wrestling. I like that, you call it starting a little bit later in age, but I think also you don't have those miles on you, right? You don't have the mixed martial arts miles on you. Wrestling miles are different than getting hit and beat up over 100%. And over. And you see success all over the map as far as mixed martial arts people starting later in their career, especially in MMA. But I mean, Deontay Wilder in boxing, Sergio Martinez in boxing, like the list goes on. So, man, I'm excited to see what you do with it, and with your strong wrestling background, I think you can go far. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. And one thing actually I do want to highlight, I love how you built the team around you. I think for anyone to go far, that's such a critical piece of it, and you have a strong team around you. So again, I'm excited.
Yeah, shout out to all my team and all the people that helped me. Landau, Factory X, Laylee, who's going to be helping me, Ian, all my coaches from the past, and of course my girlfriend. I just want to thank everybody on the team too. So yeah.
Absolutely. And your fight's coming up September 28th, Fury FC 37, first time in Denver, Colorado. So buy tickets from him, buy them online probably. And how can people follow you online to see how you do?
Yeah, Benjamin_BA on Instagram. I also, like I said, Canvas Conversations at CCMA News on Instagram, and then Facebook, just Ben Armendariz.
Sweet. And thanks for watching. Follow us on Prize Fight Biz on Instagram. Check us out online at theprizefightingbusiness.com. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't forget to like us on Facebook. Thanks.